nDreams has revealed the new game. Alright, Frenzies. Multiplayer shooter. Looks good. Looks sick. I'm actually kind of excited for it. Big fan of the company. Big fan of the games. Fract, awesome. Synapse, awesome. Shooty Fruity, awesome. Yeah, I mean, they're bosses. They're leaders in this industry. So, cool. Down for it. But seeing the game, watching the footage of the game, I have to admit, there's something about there's something on my mind that I've wanted to discuss. I've wanted to broach the topic, as it were. I've been in this VR thing for a while. I love VR, really do. But there's always been this aspect of VR discourse that's kind of irked me. And as time has gone on, as the years have gone on, I've grown to a disdain for it. It's it's in how we relate the experience of VR. If you've been in VR long enough, you've always heard this narrative of this game is just like this flat screen game, but in VR. If you've been in long enough, I've heard it for years. I've heard it for years. If you go watch on any YouTube, go look up any VR game in YouTube, and half, if not 80% of every thumbnail for every VR game is always, it's like boom, X flat screen game in VR. It's like this old big flashy letters and big bold. It's like this in VR, and I've seen it for years, and I hate it. I hate it. I hate to say it, but I hate to see it. I hate to see it. I remember when I remember there's a game I play called Survive V1 V3. It's like a zombie survival game. And I remember I saw a video of Habby when he was saying that it's like Left 4 Dead in VR. No, it's not. I mean, no, it's not. It is nothing like Left 4 Dead. Like, Left 4 Dead and Survive are completely different in literally every respect. The only similarities is that they have guns and you shoot zombies and you can be 4 players. That is it. After that, there are no similarities in the between those two games. I saw people try to compare Hubris to Halo. Like, it's like Halo in VR. No, it's not. Hubris is nothing like Halo. Like, no, it's not. It's nothing like Halo. It's like, what? What? And so I've seen it for years. This incessant need to attach every VR game, to justify every VR game with some flat screen counterpart. And yeah, I can't stand it. We condense, we filter down a fantastic VR experience to some flat screen counterpart, and it really irks me. Contrast is just Call of Duty. Showdown is just Warzone. Breachers is just Siege. And it goes on. Galaxy Kart and all the kart games they're just Mario Kart in VR. And we distill all of these great VR games down to just, well, it's just this game in VR. It's just this flat screen game in VR. And I hate it. I really hate it. I really hate it. I really hate it. Because usually it comes with 2 connotations. It usually either says, we say it dismissively, or people say it dismissively. Like, yeah, it's just, yeah, Ghost of the Boar. It's just Tarkov in VR. Kind of mentality, which is like, well, that's an awful way of saying it. Like, that undercuts, underscores all the efforts of the developers that they've made. That they just made a knockoff version of some flat screen game and put it in VR. Like, that approach, that mentality, that discourse of a game, I don't like that. I don't condone that. Or we say on the opposite spectrum, and we say, well, this is your favorite flat screen game, but in VR. So you should go try VR because now you can play your favorite flat screen game, but in VR. And we say it like that's gonna get like people on the outside to try VR. Which maybe, I don't know, maybe y'all can attest to it. I personally have not seen that, to be honest with you. If a person spent $500 to play Warzone, I doubt they're gonna spend another 500 something dollars to go play Warzone in VR. Like I don't know. That doesn't. I don't know. I've never seen that. I've never seen. People might go, oh really? Oh okay. But then they think to themselves, well, I can just play that already. I'm already playing Warzone. Why do I have to spend extra money and learn extra things to go play Warzone in VR when I can just play it on my TV? You know what I mean? And when we show them footage of the game, you know, they have their flat screen game that they play, and then we show them VR footage, but it's also on flat screen, and it looks basically the same. They said, well okay, well that's I'm glad you're having a good time, but I'm just keep playing what I'm playing. And so I think that manner of relating the experience of VR, of just simply condensing it down to, well, it's this flat screen game in VR, is terribly dishonest. It doesn't compare, because any one of us who actually plays VR can all attest to the fact that nothing on a flat screen compares to good VR. Like a proper, good, fleshed out VR experience is incomparable to anything on a TV, anything with a controller in your hand. Like, it doesn't compare. It doesn't compare. It's like, I think if like a person in a kitchen, and you go in the kitchen, and you have flour, you have sugar, you have salt, you have baking powder. I mean, you have these things, right? You have some eggs, you have some butter. You say you want to bake something. You can give two different people the exact same ingredients, and they can make two wildly different things. You know what I mean? With those two same ingredients. Just because they have the same ingredients doesn't mean that they're comparable. You understand? Just because, for instance, I'll use a game I recently purchased, Galaxy Kart, as an example. You could look at Galaxy Kart and dismiss it as just Mario Kart, you know, I mean, knockoff. Because they both have karts, both have wild tracks, you know, zany characters and power-ups you pick up and all that kind of jazz. But when you play Galaxy Kart, and you're gripping the wheel with one hand, and you have your pistol in the other hand, and you're physically aiming at the other drivers, and using your special abilities, using your power-ups, flying through the ramps, when you're doing that stuff in VR, it is incomparable to Mario Kart. Like, Mario Kart wishes it could be as exhilarating as Galaxy Kart is. You understand? They're not comparable. Same ingredients, but Galaxy Kart is far superior. And I would play that over Mario Kart any day of the week. And so we should be emphasizing, for instance, the differences, as opposed to, instead of hamstringing our VR experiences to a flat screen game, we should be emphasizing the difference. If you really want to get people into VR, that's what it's going to be. It's not the similarities, it's the differences. It's what VR has to offer that they're not experiencing already. Now, there are some games that escape this curse, mainly because they're just so unique in their approach, or they're just so VR in nature, VR AF in nature, that they escape it. I think of like Saints and Sinners. Whenever I hear that game mentioned, I never hear a flat screen game mentioned in the conversation with it. Like, I never hear people try to condense the game down to, well, it's just, I don't know, some VR, some zombie game in VR comparable. Like, you never hear that. Comparing Saints and Sinners to any flat screen zombie game would be a huge disservice to Saints and Sinners. It just doesn't compare. It's as simple as that. Another example, in the context of what we're talking about here with nDreams, Synapse. Synapse is a VR game through and through. I can't think of another game comparable on flat screen that's comparable to Synapse. It stands alone because it is VR to the core. And especially in the context of the VR2 and Synapse, that is a VR experience. Telekinesis with eye tracking, dynamically grabbing cover and returning fire, that is an experience that can only be had in VR. When I see Frenzies then, I see a multiplayer game that is VR. You look at the game, you look at it and there's no game you can your mind is trying to attach it to a game and you can't, it stands alone. I don't know any other game that really looks, any game right now on the market that's really comparable right now to Frenzies. It's its own unique thing, its own unique multiplayer shooter. And so I am down for that. Actually. I'm actually looking forward to that. Shout out to developers. Now, I say this, and I say this guardedly, because not every game needs to be so distinct and so unique from its source of inspiration. Because, if you're a developer, a VR developer, and let's say you love let's say you love Call of Duty. Let's say you love Call of Duty. You're a VR developer. You've been playing Call of Duty all your life. You want to start making VR games, and your first thought is, well, you know what? I love Call of Duty. Why not make a game inspired by Call of Duty and put it to VR? I have no issues with that. Not every game needs to be this wildly separated, incredible VR experience that has no. I'm not saying that per se, because even in its basic form, VR is still incomparable to flat screen. There really isn't a real comparison. But I do want to shout out those developers that make a game that really stands alone, that really looks at VR, because it is separate. They're good VR, and I say that guardedly, but VR, you know what I'm talking about. Those who know what I'm talking about. When you play some good VR, woo, you get lost. You know what I mean? You get immersed, and there ain't nothing on a controller and a TV that can possibly compare to it. You understand? So, shout out to nDreams. They're royalty. Shout out to this new game, Frenzies. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on it as that drops. I assure you I'll be there playing it and smoking people. So, thanks for watching. If you have any thoughts, if you agree or disagree, you can let me know in the comments. Alright, y'all, take it easy, and thanks again.